Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is about the aspects between Venus and the midheaven in the chart. And this is obviously the natal chart and not talking about transits to the midheaven, but contacts from Venus to the midheaven in the natal chart. And I personally have a conjunction between Venus and my midheaven. And so I'll talk about conjunctions, squares, oppositions, and things like that. But I want to say that somebody requested this particular topic. And very interestingly, there's a site, and it's called, let me see the name of it, astrofix.net. And they have something called Brainstorm. And what they do is they just give these different phrases about a particular aspect. And they don't say, okay, this is the conjunction, this is the square and opposition. And it's very interesting to take that approach. So I just, I want to give them a shout out because what I did, rather than just collect these different attributes, I decided just to go to the site and read off and give my own little, kind of fill it in and guess okay, is this the square? Is this the conjunction? So whenever you have an aspect from one planet to Venus or from Venus to another planet, it's going to be positive. Same with Jupiter. It's not going to be all that challenging. It's kind of like, even if it's like a square or an opposition, it's like a good problem. For instance, if you have an opposition from, or a square from Venus to Jupiter, it can be somebody who is a spendthrift or is overly, maybe they love bomb people. So they're going to have a very loving nature, but maybe it's a little bit overwhelming to the other person or something like that. But it's like kind of a good problem to have. It's not just like a really insurmountable situation. But when you're talking about these things, there are going to be aspects that may be a little bit challenging or problematic. So not to say that's just like easy peasy the whole way. The 10th house, which is the medium coeli, if that's how you pronounce it, the MC, or the midheaven, middle of the sky, is the place. This is the cusp of the 10th house of the career. So we look at that sign that is on the midheaven to determine what type of career you are attracted to. So let's say you have your midheaven is in Leo, and let's say you're an accountant. Hopefully you're a very entertaining accountant and that you have a larger than life professional personality where people are like, this guy or woman is the funniest accountant I've ever seen in my life. That you're not just very dry in your personality, that you at least have something that has that kind of businessy quality about you, even if you're doing very dry work, like being an accountant, being a chemistry teacher or something like that. But it certainly could hint at a career in show business. Maybe not on center stage, but maybe it's, if you have artistic talent, you create the scenery for the theater. But if other factors support it, you might be a performer and that sort of thing. So the 6th house is the house of work. The 10th house is our professional status. it's our I also saw something online that talks about our professional identity versus the first house, which is our everyday identity. And I thought to myself, and I say, is there really that much of a difference? I would say what you do as a profession is your identity. So, for instance, if somebody is a teacher, then people perceive them as being cerebral. And if so, let's say your MC or your midheaven is in Virgo, and you have your rising sign is Leo. I'm using Leo because I just think of that kind of extroverted personality. People might see you as very like kind of a larger than life figure, very theatrical and warm, but you also have that cerebral quality. So you might be a very kind of a entertaining teacher, very outgoing, and so on and so forth. But kind of brainy too. But so people who have a conjunction like I have with their midheaven, it can point to professional popularity. And, you know, when I think about that, I kind of laugh because, you know, I'm doing something where I'm putting myself out there to some degree. And Venus can be the arts and things of that nature. But I don't think of myself as a particularly popular person in general. And this is from astrologyking.com, and they're talking about being popular and also having a voice. That would be the Venus, because Taurus is ruled by Venus and is connected to the throat. So that can indicate something that where you have a voice, vocal or musical talents, creative talents. Oh, it's funny they mentioned poetry, and I used to do poetry slams and poetry, and used to recite poetry and actually write poetry. I'm a writer in general. So this could be a career in the arts for some of you. And again, like I said before, this may not be front and center. Maybe it's, like I said, designing the scenery for the theater, if you're somebody who's a more private person. And that's why I say you have to look at other factors, because in my case, I have the sun in the 8th house. So that obscures that sun to some degree. And hence why I personally don't go before the camera, but still put things out there. So this is the idea. They talk on astrologyking.com of a comfortable, if not wealthy, life. And I think this is really important to kind of hone in on. If you have favorable aspects like a conjunction or a trine or a sextile from Venus to the midheaven, is that you can have a life that is where there is a sense of harmony, and in terms of monetary gain, it could be there, but it's not necessarily over the top. It might be more modest, but you still feel this sense of a flow, okay? And they also mention meeting your marriage partner through your career, because Venus rules 2 signs. It rules Taurus and it rules Libra, and Libra is the ruler of the 7th house of committed partnerships. So whether you want to call it marriage or a significant other, you can meet them through your career, or you could have a business together. You could work together in some kind of a joint venture. So that's another thing that is possible with this conjunction. Now, I want to talk about the brainstorming because that is a lot of fun. Although, sometimes we get a little bit, we want to just pin things down. But when I was researching for doing this video, I did find that it's not, one of those things where a lot of times when you look at aspects and it's on like online resources, websites, they will lump the trines and sextiles together and the squares and oppositions together. And I think because there is going to be a certain similarity between the positive or the easy aspects and the more challenging ones. So that you don't really, there's it's such a fine line that you don't need to really deal with it. I will say that with the opposition, it is going to be the opposite house, which is going to be the fourth house. So Venus is going to be in that fourth house. So I'll say specifically with opposition, from what I could suss out, because they had some really positive things when they were talking about the opposition between Venus and the Midheaven. And basically, I guess the place they were going, where they were coming from was that Venus is going to be in the fourth house of home and family in your natal chart, which means that you're going to come from an environment that is either where you are affluent or even if it wasn't rich, or anything like that, where there's a sense of ease in your home life. And, like your childhood, maybe you just had really loving, supportive parents. Now, in opposition, it means that there's an angle of 180 degrees. So it's totally opposite. But these are not incompatible, even though it's considered a challenging aspect. There's the signs are going to be from compatible elements. Now, that's in general. Sometimes I don't want to get into that, but it's not always going to be the case 100% of the time, but a lot of times they will be. So there's going to be common traits between those two signs, and certainly between these two houses, there are common traits. However, it's also the opposite. It's kind of paradoxical. So the fourth house is private. The first 6 houses are your private life. And so the fourth house, to me, it's like your nest, okay, your home life. And so you feel very comfortable in that home environment. You don't necessarily feel as comfortable out in the world. So it may be this kind of thing. Let's say you're a woman. It doesn't have to be the case, but women do give birth. So let's say you're a woman who is raising children and you really love staying at home with them. And then they get to be 5, 6, they're getting to be an age where they can go to school. You may feel that sense of I should be doing something out in the world, but it may feel like you're not sure if you should do it or not. So there might be a little bit of a hesitation because it is so comfortable and you've made your home, your nest so comfortable that you don't really, the being out in the big old world may seem a little bit unappealing. And so that might be a conflict for you, especially if you are the kind of sign that's very ambitious. Let's say you're a Capricorn, which is actually the ruler of the 10th house of career, and yet you have it in the 4th house. You have Venus in Capricorn. You may have this feeling of I should be doing something, but you don't, you still feel like being at home. In those kinds of situations, there's kind of a real obvious polarity. So there's extreme ideas going on, attitudes. So you may have this very well-developed idea of I have to be at the home, in the home, or I have to be out in the world. And what you can do is try to modify that. Maybe you can start your own business, and it either has like this feel for, you could actually start it in the home, but it is a career. Or if you're working for somebody else at a career, it could bring in the elements of the fourth house in some way. So, for instance, doing home care for others of some sort, like home decorating, but you're working for a designer or something like that. It definitely could speak to those types of anybody who has Venus with opposition might have, in the fourth house, may have this desire to do that, and maybe you can make a living from it, can make money from making other people's homes more beautiful. With the square, I could see somebody who is there's a conflict between doing what you love and what is your career. So you may feel like you can't, that those are unreconcilable. And a lot of that, I think, can be dissolved because this is a square, so there's an obstacle that you have to jump over. And it's also good to know, like, what house is Venus in, that it's forming that square, because that can give you more information as well. And so there may be this sense of the person being very, maybe you've been like indoctrinated to believe that you have to, make all this money in order to do something that is worthwhile. So money comes before doing what you love, and or that there's a book that I remember reading a long time ago, and this was before I heard the phrase law of attraction, and it was called Your Money or Your Life. And I think that was a Jack Benny sketch, which was before my time, just let me tell you. But the idea of, and I guess Jack Benny, I think he was known for being cheap or something like that. And he would say, I'm thinking, like a robber would come up to him, your money or your life. And that's really, I mean, it's a joke, but in a lot of ways, how many people sacrifice their happiness, which that to me is your life, for money. So being able to see that it's possible to do what you love. And yeah, it's funny because there's a book, it's funny. I was just going to say Your Money or Your Life. Was that another book that I read, or was that a video that I saw? This was way long ago, but there was also a book, there was like literally a book that I read called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And I think that's what I was getting confused with. So basically, look at your attitudes towards these things when it comes to your career, and see if you really feel this barrier, which what the square would represent, between feeling like this sense of doing what you love, or if you are kind of mailing it in, because Venus can be lazy. And one of the things in the astrofix.net, when they're talking about these attributes, they mention sucking up to authority, because the 10th house can be authority, a sycophant or sycophant, if that's how you pronounce it, professional schmoozers. So Venus, when there's a hard angle, and I would say that it's not just one thing. So look at your chart, look at Venus. Is it afflicted in besides just this? If you have a square between Venus and the midheaven, do you have a square between the sun and these other things? I don't think you can have a square between the sun and Venus, but other planets. See if you have squares, and you have a lot of afflictions, because that can indicate that you don't want to have to pay any dues. You just want to just glide right to the top. But that can, let's say you have Pluto in the 10th house, you might take the kind of sketchy way to to get to the top, like cheating, cheating your way to the top. They mentioned kissing asses, professional ass kissers. That's what a psychophan is. But they said using your status for diplomatic purposes. So being diplomatic in general, which is especially associated with Libra, nothing wrong with that. That is not necessarily being an ass kisser, which is being more insincere. You can have sincerity and still be diplomatic. It's just knowing how to apply the social graces to, in a professional context, and to get ahead that way. And how people are rough around the edges, and they are their own worst enemies. They also mentioned bringing beauty into the world, working with women. So I would say, especially if this is a conjunction, maybe trines and sextiles, but especially if it's a conjunction, makeup artists, hairstylists, career in fashion or beauty. I'm just reading off of their list. They said snake charmers, diplomat. These are specific careers. I think especially if there's a conjunction, you can look at specific careers. With the trines and sextiles, it can just show the ease at being able to do these things. Now, one of the things that was interesting is they said inspiring envy. So I'd say with the trine and sextile, things flowing very easily to you. And so inspiring envy can be that other people see you and they say, wow, that person has it made. So maybe the conjunction as well. And that can be, is that going to be a good thing for you? Yeah, I suppose on social media, if you're an Instagrammer and other people say, I want to be just like this person. So if you have products that you're selling, like makeup seems to be a big one. There's certain genres on YouTube and Instagram where you can sell these things and people will buy them because they think if they buy those things that they're going to be like you. So you might have this this thing that makes it very attractive, and you might be attractive too. And one of the first things that they said in this brainstorming is aspiring to be beautiful, popular, and well-liked. Putting beauty above everything else. Putting money above everything else. It's funny, I'm just, bringing it back to myself. I also have Taurus rising, so I'm ruled by Venus. And when I was younger, that was so important for me to look good. And so whether or not that would have been career related, definitely with the rising sign. But yeah, that's your reputation. So that could certainly, if you have Venus in conjunction with the midheaven, even if you're unemployed, you may still want to give off this vibe of like, hey, I'm gorgeous. Look at me, And gosh, if I had anything that I wish I was like doing this and in my 20s, because that would really that's really great for Instagram. It really does help, your image, to be young and to be gorgeous and to be doing social media. There's no question about it. But there's, as I, look at it from both sides. So if you're doing a spiritual kind of a thing, you have to bring the gravitas to it. You can't just I guess you could. There are some people that might be able to get away with that. But I think that it's really great for sales. Because you can charm the pants off of anybody. So even if you're not particularly attractive, you can still have a charming quality about yourself. Yeah, you know what? Astrofix.net, brainstorming, they think you're successful because you're attractive. They have some great statements here. Now, let me see some of the more challenging ones that could be like the squares and oppositions. I said snake charmers, that can be somebody who's, trying to get what they want in a nefarious way. That would be more of the square. And it's like you don't think that you can get things in a kind of an above board sort of way. But this doesn't look like the same site. Because I saw some negative things as well. Oh yeah, well they said too lazy to climb the career ladder, expecting success to be easy, hobnobbing. So in other words, people who try to get ahead by any means necessary. I think though that the square that could even be falling in love with your boss. If you have a tendency to fall in love with your boss, maybe having a square from the 7th house, and because that usually, or that could be quite, or even the 12th house, I don't know. I'd have to see, somebody's personal chart if that's possible. But anyway, that kind of thing, because the 12th house can be, kind of a down low situation. I don't even know. That might be too far away from the midheaven. I mean, that might be too close to the midheaven to actually be possible, but maybe not. But anyway, this idea of getting ahead by sleeping with the boss. That's kind of being lazy and doing it the wrong way. But you could even fall in love with the boss, and that's problematic, if the boss is married. But I would say with the square, this frustration of, the midheaven, because Capricorn rules the 10th house of career, and its ruler is Saturn. This tendency of feeling like you have to, do something that is substantial or, or reputable, being an artist, being a Reiki healer, that might be seen, or, like being even an actor. There are some people whose parents do not approve of them doing, being an actor or singer, and some who do. And maybe you have this conflict of interest. 10th house can be authority figures. So maybe you have this tendency to have disharmony with them. You have to look at other things in your chart to see how that all plays out. So if you have a difficult 4th house, with challenging Mars in the 4th house or what have you, there could be like or even Mars in the 10th house. It could be like conflicts with authority figures, and therefore this is something that is quite an obstacle until you make peace with it and say, you know what? And that's kind of what Venus is, making peace. And this can be like you mellow out as you get older, maybe, in your 20s, especially, as you still, before you have your first Saturn return, you are still rebelling from your your family of origin. And then as you get older, you begin to say, you know what? I catch more flies with honey. That can be Venus, than by, trying to fight it. And then you can melt that square, so to speak. But you can still have success. That's the thing, because Venus is forming an angle with it to begin with, and Venus is very fortunate. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and if you would like a personal reading where we kind of synthesize all these things and don't just isolate them, I do a natal chart interpretation, look at transits for some of my readings. Click on the link below for that. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.